While I'm out watering in the garden, I'm looking for beneficial insects as well as pests, beneficial plants as well as not so beneficial plants, and I'm checking my plants for their health, for bacteria and fungal and weird growth, and also for some of the great surprises that we find every day. Yeah, I'm here with the poppies, which my wife and daughter planted just to have beautiful flowers in the garden, but it's also one of the beneficial plants that we grow, along with the geraniums and the marigolds, which not only attract lots of bees and hummingbirds, but they also keep away pests. So the geraniums and the marigolds we found have been really good at keeping our aphid population under control. But I'm still seeing signs of aphids and other insects, so let me show you what to look for. One common, very microscopic insect that attacks leafy greens is a leaf miner, and the leaf miners eat away at the middle part of the leaf like that, and the best solution for that is to actually remove those offending leaves and put them in your compost far away. And we also treat it with BT. BT takes care of a lot of insects. Now that's just a leaf that's turned yellow and it's going to die, but that's also a home for bacteria and powdery mildew, and you want to get rid of that. Another common sign of insects are simply holes in your leaves. So we've got something chewing on them, and we know what we've got here. We've got aphids and we've got little caterpillars. We've got the cabbage leaf caterpillars and 2 or 3 different kinds of caterpillars, and my wife has those under control again with the BT. And frankly, these are little cabbages that are winter cabbages that we planted a little too early, and we don't have space to put them in yet, and their health is starting to go down just because they're stuck in the pots. Our little bird feeder attracts a lot of bees. We have a honey producer right across the street from us, so we have a lot of bees anyway. They only have 10 or 12 hives though. It's not a huge operation, but we get lots and lots of bees, and we do things to attract more, like have water and have lots of flowers around the garden. So it's a very friendly place for beneficial insects to come and pollinate our tomatoes and peppers and hang around as much as they like. We like having the bees here. So let's go and take a look at the cabbages. They're starting to turn into cabbage heads, which is great, and we are seeing some of that moth damage. So it's not too severe, and we keep on it. So as the population grows, we have to be a little bit more stringent, and that includes coming out at night and picking off insects by hand. So in the case of insects like this, I'm going to come out tonight with my headlamp and look on the underside of the leaves, and you can also do it in the morning, because during the heat of the day the insects retreat and they go into the dirt or they go into crevices in the plant. So you're gonna have a real hard time getting them when it's hot. But if you go out early in the morning or in the night, then you can find those. And these have been getting a healthy diet of cabbage, so they're going to be big. They start out real little, but after a week or so of eating on your plants, they're going to be a good size. So the big news today, we've got our first ripening tomatoes. And this brings us to another problem, because look, our tomatoes have little fungus spots, and those aren't bad. You can eat those, and it's not hurting the fruit. It's just because it rained. We had a very late rain 2 weeks ago, and these young tomatoes had already set in, and they've got just a little bit of surface fungus. The risk with that, though, is that it could spread to the rest of the plant. So far it hasn't, and I'm being real careful. Like, I just touched that tomato, and I'm not going to touch anything else till I wash my hands, because that's how you play a part in spreading diseases around the garden. So you want to be real careful that you're not contaminating. Watch that 1-minute video I made about how important it is to clean your clippers. You want to keep your clippers clean. Make sure that you're not spreading fungus and bacteria around your garden on your own. It really makes a big difference in the long-term health of your plants. Often what happens is that by August or September, people's tomato plants start looking really poorly. The leaves are all dying. They're not producing as many tomatoes, and the tomatoes that they do produce may be diseased or have the blossom end rot. Now is the time that you want to make sure they're getting enough calcium, make sure they're getting lots of nutrients and lots of water, so that you don't see problems later on. And also you want to do the things I've mentioned in my other videos. Trim the bottom branches. Watch my tomato videos. You want to trim those lower branches, get all of the downward facing diseased leaves off. You want to manage your suckers. I've got one big sucker that just kind of appeared. That's what I mentioned in my other video too, of how tomatoes can go really wild. That was vertical yesterday, and it was tangled in with these other branches, and just overnight it's come down, and now that plant is twice as wide with that branch hanging out. And instead of going vertical, it's starting to try to go horizontal and maybe even find the ground and vine along the ground. It's not very windy anymore now. We're in late June and it's just hot. It's going to be 104 degrees today. And now, while it's still relatively cool this morning, I'm going to make sure that the tomatoes get pollinated. You want it to happen early so that the fruit has a better chance of successfully pollinating. So get out there and tap your tomatoes, look for diseases, look for pests. Now, let me tell you my most important pest tip for catching aphids early. And we gotta go over here and look at the zucchini. These broccoli are doing great, but you know, that's my next point is they're growing a lot of leaves. I'm not seeing flowers yet, so it might be a little early for them still, or they might need some fertilizer. So I'm going to hit those broccoli with some fruiting fertilizer and even a little bit of an amendment to boost flower production, and see if we can't get those broccoli to jump start on their flower production. So look at, I noticed some ants on the zucchini flowers, and I'm seeing some ants climbing up the pots. And what that tells me is that I've got ants starting to farm aphids. Why else would those ants be climbing up a plant? They do it, they bring aphids in, and then they farm the aphids. So there's a farmer in your farm, and it's called the ant. So you want to get some diatomaceous earth. I'm going to sprinkle some diatomaceous earth. I found that they use my irrigation pipe as a little highway. There they are right there. There's some. They walk along the irrigation line. So what I can do is just sprinkle some diatomaceous earth over there, and that will stop them in their tracks. They don't cross over the diatomaceous earth. So we're going to be doing that all over the garden to prevent those ants from putting aphids on all of our plants, because that's just what they will do. And then you've got a new problem with aphids all around, and we're already fighting the aphids. So that is my number one tip for today, is to look for those pests and diseases and take care of them early. Take care of them early. Look at this sucker. That is a whole nother plant. If you watch my other videos about tomato plants, and you'll see lots of videos of people saying, cut those suckers, and you can see why. I've got this beautiful straight main vine going up, and goes, you know, perfectly straight, really nice. And while I wasn't looking, this secondary sucker just took off and went sideways. Now, sometimes I don't mind that because it's so far away from the main branch that I can just let it be its own vine and start another vine here. It's like we got another tomato plant. So I'm going to do that, actually. I'm going to get another of my strings, and I'll have another string just for that vine in between these other two. So maintenance. You got to just keep walking around and checking those plants and seeing how everything is doing. Another thing you want to check with your fruiting plants is for blossom end rot. Now look, those beautiful ends, not a speck on them. And if you see that they're discolored or starting to rot on the ends, that's the blossom end rot. And you want to really make sure that you provide lots of calcium, magnesium early in the plant's life, and continue to provide it in your nutrient solution so that you don't have that problem, because it's hard to provide the calcium that's required after the fact. Once you start seeing that blossom end rot, that means that the plant has already been deprived of calcium for weeks and weeks, and it takes a while for the plant to uptake the calcium. If you are in the situation where you go like, oh, I really need that right now, the solution we found that really works is powdered milk. You get powdered milk and you put on these 20-gallon pots. We've used, I think, about 2 cups per pot, and there's recipes for that online. People tell you how much you should use, but that's one of the solutions. If you're finding insects, you can spray. There's lots of sprays that are not harmful, that are made of peppermint oil or geranium oil, and they're really safe. These organic herb-based, plant-based sprays. So take care of your plants. Don't be afraid to use products, fertilizer and pesticide sprays, as long as you know what the ingredients are.